Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Andrea Mazzucci, and I'm so happy that everyone is joining us this morning for the Women in Pensions 2017 four-part series. Today, this one is called Piece of Caking, Celebrating Better Together. So welcome to the call. Just for some housekeeping, you should keep your phones and your lines on mute. We will have some guest speakers today. They will be sharing their video cameras as well as some PowerPoint presentations. If you have questions, there is a webinar chat, so you can chat, type a message. There will be questions and answers after each one of the speakers, so I'm sure you'll have some burning questions for them and we'll have a chance to answer those. So I will share my screen. Wanted to welcome you today. We're talking about our webinar series because we want to teach women how to build strong, successful teams throughout the stages of group development. Whether you're starting a new project, a new role, if you've landed yourself into a new position, or even in a personal situation, the stages of group development are the same for all of those different circumstances. And they were devised by Bruce Tuckman, who after graduating with a PhD in psychology from Princeton became an educational psychologist at The Ohio State University. So we're glad that you've joined us today for this call. This is a journey through the four parts of our four-part conference call series called Awakening, Rule Breaking, Handshaking, and Piece of Caking. So today we're excited to get going. We're going to discuss the most fun and enjoyable topic of the four. This is the development stage of piece of caking, and it's called Celebrating Better Together. So everybody likes to celebrate with cake. The good things in life are described as a piece of cake. Things that come easy to us are called the icing on the cake. And we all want to have our cake and eat it too. So with today's stage, this stage is characterized by ease and success that is enjoyed and reached by the team because they've been motivated and they've learned from working together what their goals are and how to accomplish them. Working together becomes effortless for this stage of development, and the goals are reached that they set out to accomplish. And the team is enjoying this successful performance of results, and they enjoy the strengths of what they've built together. So they do feel like they've reached the icing on the cake, where things are becoming much sweeter, and it's a stage of performance. The performance of the team is actually noted by others outside of the team as well. So as a women's organization, today we want to answer these questions. Does research demonstrate that women and men serving in leadership roles together drives improved performance and profitability? And, in other words, are we better together? What strategies are companies using to successfully advance women in leadership roles? And what overwhelming body of research that we're going to discuss, and how we connect with women, advisors, and investors to help them take ownership of their own financial futures. So today's amazing women that we get to hear from, we have three speakers, one for the first half hour, and then a panelist of mentors and mentees from the Women in Pensions organization for the second half hour. Today I'll be introducing Anne Greenwood. She is the Senior Vice President of Enterprise Sales and Marketing for Pax Elevate Management. She is going to discuss the topic of Better Together, Celebrating Better Together. But to introduce today's webinar, I'm going to turn it over to Mickey Morley. Mickey is on our Women in Pensions Connect and Mentoring Committee, and she's going to talk to us about the how WiPN got started and why you should be involved in WiPN. Mickey?
Thanks, Andrea. I appreciate the introduction. So who is WiPN? So we were founded in 2009 by a group of industry leaders seeking to create a forum for women in the pension industry to network and cultivate professional and personal growth. We're a 501c6 nonprofit network with a network of, can you believe it, over 1,700 plus women, and hopefully growing. So please make sure that you do join WiPN if you're not a member already. Membership includes all segments of the retirement industry, including early and mid-senior level women across service providers, which includes record keepers, CPAs, DCIOs, ERISA attorneys, and others, and not enough financial advisors and consultants. So ladies, please reach out to your financial advisors and consultants to make sure that they do join WiPN, because it is a great organization. So why should you join WiPN? So as you know, there's a long history of inequality and imbalance in women in the U.S. workforce. Women earn, unfortunately, 7 cents to every man's dollar, and there continues to be a lack of representation of women at board of director and C-suite levels. Obstacles include a lack of mentorship and sponsorship, both within their organizations and in the industry, and it's hard to find peers, mentors, and advocates to support reaching goals. And as you know, women are not as active in forming industry connections, touting accomplishments, and really asking for recommendations and referrals. So all WiPN members have access to exclusive networking events within the country or all over the country, mentoring opportunities, and interesting webinars just like this. And we also have unique opportunities to connect with and learn from another. So why should you join WiPN? To network, learn and share, leverage each other and the experience everyone has had, and combine our collective talents, because there's so much talent within this organization. So please, again, join WiPN if you have not already. And I'll hand it back to you, Andrew. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you so much, Mickey. I'm excited to say that at the end of this year, we really can enjoy being better together, and the performance that Women in Pensions has had. I'd like to make a note of, on our last webinar, that our current president of Women in Pensions, Kathleen Roach, announced that we began the year with 5 Women in Pensions chapters throughout the United States, and we're going to end 2017 with 15 chapters. So quite a bit of growth that we're experiencing through all segments of our industry. So we're very proud to be part of that. We try to make the webinars interesting and applicable. They are recorded. You can watch them later or pass them along to some of your peers who maybe weren't able to join us today. As I mentioned, this is a 4-part series we went through all year. The awakening stage, rule breaking, handshaking, and piece of cake, and all the different stages that you get to through group development. We wanted our members to have the energy radiated through them of what it looks like when you're developing a strong and successful use. So we had guest speakers throughout our year. We also had committee members working with us. So thank you, Mickey, your regional sales consultant of CUNA Mutual Retirement. We had Allie Caffrey, the associate portfolio manager of InvestNet. And we also had Molly Conway, vice president and portfolio advisor at Wellington Management. So thank you, committee members, for helping us put this together. Yeah, I just want to remind everybody that if you're not on mute, I'm hearing some background noise. Even our panelists and presenters, if you're not presenting, please mute your phone. Okay, so what does it mean to be better together? What performance results are achieved when women and men are in leadership roles together, and what tools are companies using? Well, at this time, I'd like to read the bio of our main speaker today, Ann Greenwood. Again, she's the Senior Vice President, Sales and Marketing of PAX Elevate Management, and is responsible for sales and marketing initiatives related to the PAX Elevate Global Women's Index Fund. Ann has over 25 years of experience. I'm sorry, could somebody please mute your phone? Thank you. Ann has over 25 years of experience at a major wealth management firm, leading national businesses as well as in regional roles. And Ann has served as a managing director, head of client development for Morgan Stanley. Before that role, Ann led Smith Barney's National Retirement Solutions Group, including all personal and corporate retirement business. Ann led one of the largest offices in the Smith Barney system in Boston for over 10 years before moving to national roles. And she started her career in financial services as a financial advisor with special focus on impact investing. Ann graduated magna cum laude with a Bachelor of Arts degree from Cornell University and earned a Master of Public Administration from Harvard University. She is a former President's Council member for the Cornell University Alumni Giving, an advisor for Advisors Ahead, Inc., and a finance committee member of the Cambridge Homes Association. Ann also earned the Advanced Leadership Fellow Award from Harvard University in 2012. It is my privilege to honor her today and bring her into our organization to speak about how to invest in women and make an impact, the business case for including women in corporate leadership. Anne, we'd like to hear from you.
Andrea, thank you for the wonderful introduction, and I'm just going to get my screen on here. Bear with me. Just getting the... Okay. Is that coming through to everybody?
You look great. We can see you just fine.
Okay. Are the slides visible too?
We just see your face right now. If you want to hit the share screen button.
Okay, let me just get out of there. Sorry. Well. Okay. Well, we might do it without the slides, Andrea.
Okay. You know, actually, I have them. Let me load them up on my side if you want to give me just one quick second. You can just get involved in your presentation. I'll have them ready in just 1 second.
Okay. Well, yes, while you're loading those in, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Well, this is great to be together. And while we're getting the slides set up, my particular focus is, let's see, will I be able to navigate those?
It will be navigated from mine. So if you want to let me know when to change.
Yeah, let's go to the second page.
Okay.
And really, the presentation today is about, I think, a topic of interest to everyone, which is what the research really shows about the benefits of when men and women come together and lead companies. That it's actually, we get better results, and it's just one group or the other. So it's the research behind this, and one thing that I'm particularly passionate about is learning what those companies did do that have successfully advanced women in leadership. So I'll be sharing some of the strategies that this is something you may be able to take home to your own companies, and then how this can be used to connect with your investors. So with that, let me just, let's move to the next slide, Andrea. And I think for some in the audience may be thinking, well, wait a minute, how could gender equality still be an issue in 2017? And as this slide documents, this is from a study recently done of the top 22,000 companies on the planet. So a large sample, and what you can see there is that still today, 2017, 60% of the companies have no female board members. So 60% of companies have 0 female board members. 50% have no females in their C-suite, so those top positions that run a business. And 95% of these 22,000 companies do not have a female CEO. So, you know, maybe a little shocking to some to learn that's kind of where we are today. But we have, you know, it's been a bit of a slow period here to see this advanced growth. And Andrea, if you could turn to the next slide. Even though we're making some progress, it would take 170 years, this is according to the World Economic Forum, to get from where we are to where we would like to be, judging that to mean 50% men, 50% women in leadership roles, in key roles around companies on the planet. So 170 years is a bit long to wait. And it's, well, we've been pushing and shoving on this topic. We now have something new on our side, and it's called the facts. And Andrea, if you could move the slide forward. And what do I mean by that? What's different in the last three and a half years, research has been coming from highly respected organizations, showing that where women are included at the leadership table, where women are included, companies actually do better. And if you can just go back to that prior slide, I'm sorry. You can see here Credit Suisse was the first one out with the research, again, about 3.5 years ago, 1,103-page report, so they were not fooling around. And I think the question they asked was, okay, there's a lot of questions and noise around whether bringing women into senior roles, making more of an effort to do that. Credit Suisse was the first out there to say, okay, let's look at the data. Do companies do better when women are included? They were the first. You can see the names there, all Morgan Stanley, McKinsey, et cetera. And the result of that research was that they do make a difference. And if you move forward to that next slide, you can see there that actually the difference is substantial. Where there's 30% of women in leadership roles, there's a higher return on equities. Where women are a CEO, there's less volatility, I'm sorry, and where there's greater diversity in management, there's higher price earnings ratio, higher price performance on the stock. So these are hard-nosed numbers. It's not like kumbaya, it's nicer to work at this organization, there's now women in leadership. We're talking about better financial results, which is really what drives the market, which is what I love about this work. So Andrea, please go on to the next slide. And what you can see here is this is a chart showing comparing those companies with women in the leadership team, included on the leadership team in significant numbers, and where they are not. And what you can see here is the blue line is those companies where there is not significant participation by women in the leadership team, and the top green line is where they are, and it's a comparison of their stock performance. So takeaway point here is that companies' stocks do better because their financial results are better where women are included on the leadership team. So the next slide, you can ask yourself the question, well, if their performance is better, their financial results are better, shouldn't we be investing in companies with women included? So again, and Andrea and I have talked about this, it's not that we want all women leadership teams at companies, but we're really saying we want better together. We want to look for those companies where they have a gender diverse leadership team because they'll get the better results. So on the next slide, you'll see that Sally Krawcheck, who some of you may know Sally's name, she was CEO of Merrill Lynch Wealth Management, CFO of Citigroup, CEO of Smith Barney, saw this data coming out. She's a research analyst, but as she started her career and came up with the question, all right, this research is now coming out, but there's really no way for the average investor to invest in these companies. And so she launched, it's just 3.5 years ago, the first fund of its kind, investing in those companies where women are at the leadership table. And that's the Pax Elevate Global Women's Index Fund, PXWIX. And so that was launched, and I'm proud to say is doing well, as the data would have indicated. These companies, their stock is outperforming the baseline index. So it's a great story for all of us who are women in business. And as I'll get into a little bit later, it's also a great story to help engage those participants you're working with, to help get that message across to corporations you're working with and setting up their investment plans, because this is something that resonates with women, young and old, today. They love this story, and it's a good tool to have in your toolbox. On the next slide, just want to pivot for a second to where are the women? And I don't think any of this will be probably a surprise to those of you on the call, but the question often comes up, what's going on? Why are there not women participating fully in these leadership roles? And on the next slide, you can see what we basically know. This is from a lean-in report. They worked on collaborated with McKinsey and Company. And you can see that women and men start out at that, what we know, 50-50 in the workplace, basically, pretty close to that. And as this, you'll see the tunnel narrows, which is basically as you move along and you move into higher positions. So you go to vice president role, to executive levels, to the C-suite. You can see that the proportion of those employees that are women are going down to from roughly 50-50 to 19% as you get into the upper levels of the firm's leadership. And on the next slide, if you're asking yourself, well, what's going on there? This is from an Ernst & Young study of what is going on. What does happen that women drop out or don't participate? And some of the things there, I don't think there's any real surprises here. Some point to unsupportive culture, some point to the fact that there's conflicts with raising a family for some women. Some say there's a shortage of candidates. Whatever you point to, those are some of the factors that have been influenced results in the past. And on the next slide, one thing that's been thrill to me is working with this fund. I have spoken to our fund invests in the top. We rank the top 1,600 companies on the planet in terms of representation of women in senior leadership. So we take the top 25%. It's about 400 companies. And so I've spoken to 65 people in the C-suite of these companies that have been successful, that were able to have more balanced leadership teams. And the question I always pose is, what worked? What's in your secret sauce that you were able to do that so many companies seem to struggle with it? Share your secrets. And out of that, I'm just going to click on the top 5. It's interesting, 65 companies, it really distilled down to the same kind of 5 points I was hearing about. And on the next slide, you can see the first 4 listed. And I'm going to mention this to you for a couple of reasons. One, it might be of interest, but 2, you all are working with companies, you work at companies, and these may be strategies that could help advance women in the company you work for or work with. So I think it's worth making note of, because this way it allows us to make a difference. I've shared these strategies and written about them, and I've gotten great feedback from companies. It's been very helpful to help move women forward. But the first 4 of the 5, breaking goals into bite-sized pieces. This came from a company in Europe where they felt that it was just so daunting to say, listen, we have virtually 0 women in our top 25 positions at the firm. And to think about jumping to 50% of that, they said for them it was more beneficial to think of, okay, let's divide it in bite-sized pieces. And by 2 years out, let's try to get to 8-10% and keep moving it on to that level, so that it was something that seemed doable as opposed to daunting. And that's a number of companies pointed to that, breaking it into bite-sized pieces for different layers of management and where they wanted to go. For another, and I thought this was interesting, was bringing in a change agent. And this actually, I think, was well stated by Manulife, which is, everyone knows, a huge financial services company based in Canada. In that case, the CEO, super successful, highly respected, he said, turned to his management team and said, listen, I have to say that I have failed at something. I've been here 10 years and have not been able to move the dial and bringing women into management. So I'm taking a different approach. I'm going to stay CEO, but I'm bringing in a change agent. I'm bringing in one of our senior leaders who just finished an amazing launch of our mobile application, which in a shorter time than anyone thought it could be done, to take the lead on this. And for Manulife, that was critical. And then over those next 8 years, the Manulife was able to make strides by just having a different perspective, a different person that brought innovation to the approach of bringing women into leadership. Third was Male Champions of Change, which, Andrea, you'll like this one, which is, it's not a men versus women kind of thing, but Commonwealth Bank of Australia really felt that they started making progress when they reached out and engaged the men in senior leadership to basically say, we need your help to work on strategies to get this done. You're not the enemy, you're our ally in this. And that's when things started moving forward for them. And again, heard from many companies around the world rather. And then the last of the 4 is the change from the top, which again, if the CEO cares, that's what really was making a difference at some companies, and that was the driving force. The new leadership came in and was really embracing the need to change. On the next page, the 5th and final, I'm just going to take a minute to talk about this because this was very compelling. This was at AXA, and some other companies subscribed to this, which is, and you'll see a quote there from Jo Miller. Some of you may be familiar with her. She does a lot of writing about leadership. She has the quote, "Mentors help you skill up, sponsors help you move up." So in this case, I was talking to someone in the C-suite at AXA, and I asked what did it for them, and she said we changed to a sponsorship from a mentorship approach. And I actually didn't know exactly what she meant. I had a suspicion, but she said, let me give you a quick example. When we decided we were serious about doing this, our top 20 executives were all men. And the mission given to each of them is they had to pick someone in their organization, a woman, that they could see being in the C-suite, being the CEO of the company down the road, of that caliber of person. And they were to sponsor that person. And the example she gave me is to tell you how that works. And she said, here's one example. She said, one of the executives, so one of the top 20 people at the firm, this is a firm of 200,000 employees, he called the woman he was sponsoring and said, I want you to meet me tomorrow morning, 9:15. We're going to ride with the CEO to the board meetings, about an hour's drive, and we'll ride with a limousine. So the person he was sponsoring, so okay, fine, I'll go along, not knowing what to expect. And she gets in the limo, and what she saw in action during that hour is that the CEO did not, barely talk to them, but what she saw him doing in action was speaking to the board of directors, calling each board of director member and driving his agenda. And for some, it was yelling. For some, it was cajoling and joking with, but he was completely focused on getting hold of each, driving his agenda and his points. And the point of that story is, unless you're in the room, how do you know how to act when you get in the room? So here was a chance for her to get, and there were many other examples, but this particular one I like because it's clear. You could see, he wasn't being nice and cajoling everybody. He was really, as the story goes, yelling at some and borderline threatening them in some ways to get a vote as he would like. So she got to see that, so that when she got to that higher level, she could see how to get the results that she needed to be successful. So those are the 5 strategies that work. So think about whether that's something that you could work at, anything that could fit into your company. And on the next slide, you'll see, why does this matter to you? And just in these last couple slides, there's a couple things. First, if you turn to the next slide, from you all that are helping people plan for their retirement, helping companies help their employees plan for retirement, you're really in a unique role. And that's why I loved when Andrea reached out to me, because I think you are in the key role to help make a difference for women. So if you turn to that next slide, here's Sally Krawcheck, who I mentioned earlier, and something I'm very passionate about. She makes a statement here: we're facing a retirement savings crisis in this country, and if you actually dig through the numbers, it's in large part a woman's crisis. And this is something I'm sure you all know. On the next slide, you'll see why she says that. I'm sure you all could quote this yourselves. We all know women live longer, they earn less, they take time off to work for families, so they have earnings gaps. Often they invest more conservatively, which is a concern certainly that I have shared over the years. I was, as Andrea mentioned, ran retirement planning national office for Morgan Stanley. So very big concerns. So on the next slide, I think you can see how this research around advancing women, how the results of this fund where you're investing in companies with women at the leadership table actually does better, could be something to help close the gender gap. And on this next slide, how does that work? It really can help women feel empowered to take action. This is something, I see this all the time, where instead of kind of glazing over as, again, participants in these, in planning for their retirements, in their 401ks, et cetera, instead of glazing over, they lean forward. This is something that they get. It helps them engage and helps them gain confidence. These are stories, and if you want more stories, I'd be glad to share those with anybody, but these are real stories from the street. These are things that are working at the firms at the highest levels. making a difference, and people get it and helps them move forward and align their investments with something that matters to them. So in the next slide, I think I just want to close with some things that you can do if this is an area of passion, as it is for me and for Andrea, and I'm sure for many of you on the phone. Think about if there's, first of all, someone you can sponsor. Forget bringing sponsorship tips to the senior levels of a company. Just stop for a moment. Is there someone that you see coming up behind you that you could help with being in the best position possible to move forward? Use these stories, use this kind of concept, the demonstration of where women are included, companies actually do better to engage the women you're working with, participants, engage the companies that you're working with. And hopefully, bottom line, invest in these companies that are advancing women, because you're going to get better results and feel good about it as well. So with that, Andrea, thank you for help with the slides. Sorry that my slides were not working, but I'm going to send it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Anne. Amazing information. I realize I get so excited about this, my volume increases. and it's just wonderful information for our organization to hear. I would really make the call out to our members right now and those that may be watching this video later on. One of the best things I liked about this is that it's facts. These are facts that are taken from companies and from the performance of the fund. So it is empowering women to continue to help other women, not just women helping other women. Engage your CEOs, engage your executive leadership to have this conversation. You don't need the slide presentation to even talk about the changes that are happening with gender diversity and the impact that you can have on sponsoring one woman. So thank you again. I really appreciate this presentation. It's really becoming a big part of what Women in Pensions Network is doing for women. We do have some sponsors that we're going to talk to here in a moment, but before we do that, I would like to open it up to our audience. It looks like we have about 60 people on our call today, so an amazing attendance line. Is there anyone that would like to take themselves off of mute and ask a question of Anne? We'll give you 1 second to formulate your thought. Okay, looks like we don't have anybody raising hands or taking advantage of that. I see that we do have a couple of other board members on the line with us. If I can get one of them to kind of talk about maybe what their companies are doing or if they've sponsored one woman in their organization. We'll give them a minute to take themselves off of mute. Okay, well, I think we have a very quiet crowd today. So thank you again, Anne, for joining us. We will take questions by email, and if I do receive those, I can forward those to you. Can you tell us what's next for you and where you're speaking at next, and what kind of reception you've gained by giving this presentation to various organizations?
Well, that's a great question. Actually, I'll just answer. I just came back from a swing through Seattle. Did a 300-person charity event, and I'm not sure, it was a financial, it was actually a Wells Fargo event, but also was tying women leadership in business with women leadership in the community, and did 3 events in 3 days in Seattle. But what I sense happening is not only does this resonate, but there's something else going on right now with women in particular. I go around and speak all over the country to these events, but in the last couple months, and Seattle was a good example, I was, practically had people grabbing me by the ankle on the way out. There was a new sense of urgency I felt for women to grasp these ideas about helping each other advance, and I had, and particularly for those of you trying to connect with the younger women in the marketplace. Some came to my hotel. Some, 7 in the morning, I got emails from them. There's a real sense of energy, and enthusiasm and engagement about this topic about advancing women. And I think maybe it's sort of the times today, but I think, again, you can use that energy and focus to engage these women and help drive your business. It was actually astonishing. I travel all the time, but in the last couple of months, there's been a even more engagement. And when people start emailing, the crack of dawn the next morning and chasing you out of the room in a good way, something's going on. So, I love the topic, and I think I'm fascinated by it. I have a daughter, and this means so much to me to see these things opening up. And as Andrea said, the facts are on our side. It's new information, it's new facts. But given some of the issues that are out there today for women, I think this has never resonated more strongly.
Great, and I really appreciate that. One of the things I enjoyed about your presentation when I met you at the Napa Connect conference in Chicago is the phrase, tagline, "We're better together." We aren't bashing men. We want them. We want to be leading with them, and so we truly believe that we are better together. What makes our organizations better and our bottom line profits better.
Absolutely, I could not agree more. It's better together. It's not, turning our back or treating people unfairly. It's just we're better together, and the results are better, not only for our life, but for the results, our business results. So
okay.
Can't beat that.
No, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Next, we're going to interview a couple of ladies that are in our Women in Pensions organization. Give me one quick second to do some housekeeping here and change the video the way this is going. Okay, and I'm going to, hold on one second, pull up the panelists, and I'm turning the screen over to Holly Precourt and Phyllis Klein. So I'm going to ask you to start your videos. And let me introduce Holly and Phyllis. Holly, good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. You are a real life example of helping one woman and becoming sponsors. Now in our organization, it's called Women in Pensions Connect, and as the chairman of the board for the mentoring committee, I have the honor of receiving requests from our website and meeting amazing women throughout our industry at conferences and through these webinars and the membership directory. And Phyllis is with CapTrust. She's a senior director, professional services consulting solutions group, and a Women in Pensions mentor. And Holly Precourt is a Voya Financial Director of Strategy and Planning of the tax-exempt markets and a Women in Pensions mentee. So welcome. This portion is going to be exciting as well because it's a real-life example of some of the things that we are doing as an organization that were suggested in Ann's presentation. And so there's a couple of pre-loaded questions for both of you to answer, and I'm going to stop narrating here and just let you two take the discussion in the direction that you'd like to. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
You're welcome.
So, well, and I'm not quite sure how this is all going to work. So it looks like Haley's up. So do you want to kind of moderate us, Andrea, or do you, because the two of us like to talk. Haley, you have no problem talking.
Okay. Well, fine. Let's get going then with Hallie. Hallie, I wanted to know just if you could describe how you were introduced to Women in Pensions, and Phyllis, we'd also like to hear from you how you first heard about Women in Pensions.
I started at Voya Financial, and that was my first foray into the pensions and insurance business. Can you all hear me okay?
You sound great.
Okay. And so that I was new to that industry. I had been in investment management for about 6-7 years before that. And I was on the 401k side, and I joined. And there is a senior sales leader in the 401k business at Voya Financial named Amy Valancourt. And, when I told her that I'm looking for a network, get to know what this industry is about, she introduced me to Women in Pensions Network. And that was almost 4 years ago.
Okay, excellent. Phyllis?
So I joined Women in Pensions quite a while ago. I think we had a couple of different groups, I believe, I'm probably going back to the initial kind of laying the foundation for it. And within the industry, I think there were a few different groups, and the the group that really seemed to sort of take hold and get started was the Women in Pension. And to be honest with you, I think I just knew a lot of the early members, and as we were just trying to figure it out, get it off the ground, I was involved with it. I would say almost from the beginning. It's really, and I just want to say, you know, Andrea, I know you guys put a lot of time in it, and the people who are on the board, and Kathleen, I know personally, this group, you guys have really done a fabulous job of bringing the group together, organizing it, really bringing I hate to say it that way, but professionalism to it. So thanks a lot for everything that you guys are doing, because I know it's in addition to your other job. And I appreciate it as being in the industry for a long time. So thanks.
Oh, good. You're welcome. Thank you. It's nice to hear those comments. But this is about the two of you. So let's dive into your relationship, because we want to know what inspired you to request a mentor, and Phyllis, what inspired you to be a mentor. So Hallie, why don't you go first?
Sure. So last year, my husband was offered a great opportunity with his company to move from Connecticut, where we were, and I used to report into the office every day at Voya, and to opportunity to move to Raleigh, North Carolina. So Voya has graciously kept me on board. I am now a remote employee, and I'm brand new. A year ago, I was brand new to the Triangle. It's called the Triangle, the Raleigh, Chapel Hill, and Durham area. And so being brand new to town, and Raleigh, as some of you might know, is not a financial headquarters. So I really wanted to connect with somebody, get to know the area, get to know what other financial services are here. And when I reached out to WiPN, they connected me with Phyllis, and I said, oh my God, the Cap Trust is the biggest advisory network connection I could possibly be connected to in all of Raleigh. And I was just so honored. And when, you know, that's kind of how that connection happened.
Great. Phyllis, how about you?
So I think you guys started the mentoring program maybe a couple of years ago, and at that time, I don't know, we're all busy, right? So I didn't really offer up, and I think I was at a WiPN event, maybe at Napa or one of the conferences, and you guys raised it again, and I thought, well, we do some mentoring within the firm, so we have all new employees get a mentor for some period of time, and I found that I really enjoyed that. And so knowing that there's not a lot of first of all, I would agree with Hallie, Raleigh, North Carolina, not tons and tons of financial services groups. And I just thought, you know, we talk internally a lot about attracting women to this field of financial services. So I thought, what the heck? I know a lot about this, and maybe I can be help to somebody. So I think, Andrea, you matched us up, and I think I was slow. As I was slow on the response to you, if I recall, you like sent me an email, and it was like 3 weeks later, and you were like, yeah, you out there, and I'm like, oh my God, yeah. It's been a great experience, and I think I shared some things at the Napa Connect about my mentoring experience at that point with Hallie. So I'm guessing that's why you maybe called me to do it.
I did. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'll just dash in here and say, when we get requests, they come directly to my inbox, and I funnel those to our committee. And we have a moment where we think about connections we know that may have asked or recently been introduced to women in pensions. So it has to do with timing. So timing is everything, you know, be prepared, but be ready. And then also just location. So what is the relationship looking for? Would you find it more helpful to have somebody in your local network, or are you looking to go cross-pollinate either across the country, or you know what your goals are? So there's a fair amount of determining what's best for the mentee and what they're looking for, and then sometimes it's just a happy lucky match. I know Phyllis, you're very experienced in the industry, and I talked to you at several of the conferences and saw your energy and enthusiasm for the industry. So that to me was you raising your hand to be a mentor, whether you knew it or not. And so I'm very happy that this actually, worked out and that you did respond. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions though, so that those that may be looking into getting a mentee or a mentor know how to do this. There's a button on our website. You just go in and click submit. You fill out a small, name, address, how's the best way to contact you and what you're looking for. And then as I mentioned, it comes to our committee. So after that's done, we do the screening call of both parties and try to find a happy match. But I wanted to ask what your expectations and goals were that you both had at the beginning when you first were introduced.
Hi. So I have been a mentor before and I've been a mentee before, and everybody's in different stages of their career. For me, the reason I requested a mentor this time was I've reached the point in my career where I'm no longer considered junior. I am a mid-level, and which means I am involved in a lot of senior projects, but I'm not necessarily privy to all of the reasons behind why we're doing this or that. So it became clear to me that there's a lot of politics to play and a lot of internal organizational business to understand. And so that is why I reached out and said, hey, I'm remote, B, I'm senior enough where I do have influence, and how can I use that to the most positive way, and how can I communicate upwards to senior leadership in an effective way? And also just my company has gone through a lot recently in 2013, launching our IPO and going away from being ING US to being FOIA. There's been a lot of reorganization happening, and just kind of how to navigate that and really where do I fit in, and finding a mentor who's been in the industry a long time, who's seen all the change, who could guide me through that. I think that was my main reason for looking for a mentor, and Phyllis has definitely fulfilled that, and it's been a really great sounding board and a wonderful, stable person, a stable place I can go to and say, here's this other change that's happening. Here's this other thing that's happening. How do I go through that? What's your input on that?
Excellent. Phyllis, what would you say from your perspective were the expectations and goals that you had for the relationship from a mentor standpoint?
So I think it's interesting that I probably went into this not realizing how much I would get out of it, and which has been really for me very very exciting and interesting, and I think on a couple of different levels. And Hallie and I talked about this, so this is no surprise to her. But I think for me, having been in the industry a long time, long time, and dealing with watching the generational shift, not just gender, but generational, and Hallie being a little bit newer to the industry and hearing how she views things within sort of how to navigate the office, how to navigate change, where she needs help, are so many things that I've been through, and have been fortunate enough to have some really good other people around me, that it has not only helped me share with her ideas about how she might be able to interact with the folks that she is now kind of new to, but it also has helped me think about how I interact with some of the younger people in my own office, some of the younger women, and having a better understanding of what they're facing and what are the hurdles that they see. Especially from the standpoint of communication, and just expectations and things like that. So I don't know that I had a lot of expectations going in, because I really was kind of like, I don't know what she's going to ask me about. But what I found is that the relationship is definitely a two-way street. I think she helps me as much as I think about how I interact with the folks in my office or approach things, or where she has things where she has had trying to figure out how to communicate with her, let's say it's her boss, or it's her boss's boss, or it's somebody higher up. And then it makes me think like, wow, are there, because I'm fairly high up the food chain here, is that the experience that folks who work with me are having, young women are having, like, and so it really helps me rethink my communication. Just anytime you get an email that says, I'm so glad I met you, you're cool, and you're my age, you feel pretty good.
So that leads me to my next question. I love those comments. We're going to get just a little bit deeper in the funnel here with both of those first questions I just asked you. So Hallie, did you take any specific actions based on Phyllis's advice that you would like to share?
Yeah, sure. So it kind of goes along with what she was saying. About a year ago, there was yet more reorg, and I got moved from one team to another. And it's a manager I had never worked with. He's in a different part of the business. And so being a remote employee, and actually being perhaps the only remote employee that reports up to him, and it's kind of rare to have a corporate business strategy and planning person that's remote. They usually sit in the home office. So being that remote person and reporting to a new manager, I didn't really know how to ask for feedback or what the expectations were. And I've had different kind of managers before, but as I mentioned, I'm at that point in my career where I create a lot of the details for myself. I am not micromanaged at all. I am very macro managed. So I have to figure out my day for myself and really reach out to my manager proactively. And that's kind of a new thing for me, to say, hey, here's what I think we need to do for our business. Here's what I think we need to do to create our midterm plan for the next 3 to 5 years. And here are the steps that I'm thinking that we need to take. And it's the first time I really have to be that proactive. And so I asked Phyllis, I said, okay, I haven't been asked to do anything specific. I haven't been told what to do. And she said, no, you don't sit around and wait to be told what to do. You come and say, here's what I think you need. Here's what I think that we should do. You're now, they didn't give you a title of director and just tell you what to do. You're not an analyst. So just having that kind of boost of confidence of, you have this independence, you have this role where you can set your agenda and guideline and understand the financials of your business and say, here's where I think I can have the largest impact for the end of the year, for the next quarter. And so that's just kind of been a shift in my perspective. Oh my God, you're right. I don't have to sit around and wait for my boss to reach out to me. I can tell him what I think our business should do. And so that's been a really, really big difference. And I've done that, and it's definitely been appreciated. And I've launched and initiated 3 separate projects just on my own.
Wow. Good.
One of them has been a competitive intelligence portal where our company has a lot of information across the entire organization, but there hasn't been a centralized place for any of that information to sit. Our salespeople don't communicate with our product people that often. And, whenever we've got client information, it sits on different places, and Salesforce isn't even connected across the organization. So I thought, why don't we have a portal called Competitive Intel SharePoint where everyone across the tax-exempt business can come. And so I created that, developed the back end for it, and put up all the information and connected everyone. And this year I just heard that it's been nominated for our Voya's Innovative Technologies Award or something. So that's just so exciting that, that Phyllis helped me be more proactive with it. And she knows all about my competitive intel SharePoint.
That is a wonderful example. I really appreciate you being very, very specific about that. And so I know a lot of credit goes to Phyllis. Phyllis, this is not in our pre-canned questions, so I'm going to go off to Ray a little bit. When you were mentoring Hallie about what to do and how to step up, and what, I guess 2 parts to this, what did you admonish her to do as far as, bringing her ideas to life or presenting them? And then secondly, I know this is probably not the first time that you've heard that this idea has been worked on or coming to fruition. How does it engage you to know that you impacted Hallie?
So for me, I think that it definitely has as we talked, as we initially talked when we first met, like I said, we both like to talk. So there was a lot of openness, which was very nice. So she was not afraid to ask me questions or tell me what was going on in her world, and she was extremely receptive. I think sounds like to everything I said. I better be careful what I say to you from now on. But for her particular projects that she was working on at the time, I think the things that I was thinking about is like, from my seat, what would I expect somebody to do? And that's what I said to her. I said, I don't expect, I can't give specific directions to everybody all the time of what exactly I expect. So, bounce it off you. They expect that they want to hear from you. I think one of the things that we talked about that Hallie actually brought up to me as we were talking about this session was this idea of the feedback. And she said she likes a lot of feedback, and that definitely is a trait of our younger employees, and everybody's younger to me, so don't take that in any way, that they want a lot of feedback, and they're used to getting a lot of feedback. But she said she was struggling because her boss didn't give her a lot of feedback. And I think one of the things she told me that she was doing, what I said, well, just send it to them. If you don't hear something back, follow up and put some time on their calendar. If they'll tell you, they'll deny the meeting if they don't have time to do it or whatever. And I said, but just say, hey, haven't heard from you. Can I grab 15 minutes with you? I just want to know what's going on. And that's another thing she told me that she had started doing. And I think she also told me her boss has never declined her invitation to meet and talk about it. It's just getting it that set time to do it for her to have that feedback. So for me, that's one of it. I'm very excited about your nomination. I didn't know that. We didn't talk last time we had lunch. That just excites me because she's as you can tell, she's extremely bright and hardworking, and the idea that and she gets elevated a lot. She's not things she has shared with me. In fact, been asked to lead a internal group for women within Voya. You didn't say that, Allie. So that's just very exciting that maybe this is another stepping stone for her, and not just in her professional development, in her career. But I think that you would be, if you can find people who are, obviously you did a good job of matching us up, Andrea, but I feel like the payback for both of us is just learning how to communicate across a bunch of different lines. And I don't even do anything in the tax exempt space. So it's kind of interesting. Like, I'm really 401k, and we do some 403b and things, but I think based on what her role is, it's not like our backgrounds cross a lot. So it's been interesting from the standpoint of, it's not like I'm sharing great industry insight. I'm really helping guide her through working in an organization, what's expected of you, how do you get to the next step, and those types of things. So.
Oh, I love that. No, wonderful responses. And we are coming up to the end of our call. So we are 1 minute until noon, I know, Eastern Standard Time. So thank you, ladies, for joining us. It's an amazing experience that you've had to share with our group. Thank you for taking part in the mentoring and mentee relationship this year. It's obvious that it's working out, that it's very successful, and you guys are enjoying your piece of cake together.
Yes, thank you.
Now I'm gonna make one call to action that I also didn't warn you about, and I'm gonna start my video here and say what I'd like to see both of you do is reapply. Continue your relationship and then pay back. Reach back, find another woman to mentor. And Hallie, that means you'll be a mentor now, and you get to mentor other women. So thank you again for joining us. We hope that it's been an enjoyable year for you two, as well as the rest of our organization of Women in Pensions. We've had amazing speakers throughout 2017. I wanted to highlight that in 2018, we're building a new 4-part series that will be called Courageous Conversations. So lots of the things that we have to do as we develop require women to be able to have the courage to have the conversation needed to get it to go in the right direction. So we'll be looking forward to hearing from some of our members and some other speakers in 2018 about which conversations they've had that are courageous and how to help us do that. So thank you, ladies, and thank you everyone who's joined our call. Have a great day.
Thank you, Women in Pensions Network.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.